G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Arjun Rai from HelloWoofy, based in New York in the United States of America. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Such an honor, and looking forward to a very delightful conversation. And thank you for having us on.
Let's start with how we know each other. John Hoyt from Interview Connections put us in touch and thought you'd be a great guest to come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it. He's a great guy.
He is, yeah. He's sending through a few really good guest suggestions too. So tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, we totally love making money, and how we got to this point is a story tale, a tale in and of itself. But what do? We are at HelloWoofy. We believe that we're building a platform for allowing small businesses to do smart marketing. So in a way, we also say smart marketing for underdogs, people who are just like you and me, the small businesses, people who want to compete with our biggest competitors, but we don't have a PhD or any sort of degree in marketing, and especially digital marketing. So we started about 2 years ago automating social media on the organic side using a lot of data science. And then we realized during the pandemic, a lot of the small businesses who were missing out, they were missing out because not only were they not doing social media, but they were also not doing any sort of long form content, which of course we've heard content is king. Social blog marketing, content marketing is a pretty big factor in that. So we started using the same technologies that we filed for patents to allow you to create automagically social media content, blog content, and schedule that to Medium, WordPress, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, so on and so forth. And then towards the middle of last year, we then realized that smart speakers, all those Alexa devices you have at home, nearly 500 million. A lot of businesses were winning, but guess what? Were the Netflixes of the world, the Hulus of the world, the YouTubes of the world. They were streaming more content than ever before, but that coffee shop down the block never saw his or her customer ever again. And it's because people were not going to retail. Now they are, but back then they were not. And what if we could say, hey, Joe coffee shop owner or Troy coffee shop owner, we know that people are not coming in, but you have such an expertise around coffee, the blends, the farms you get it from, how you roast it. Why don't you show your customers exactly how you do the art? And if they want to buy, through the smart speaker, they can just say one tap here, one click here, deliver a cup of coffee with a mask on to your door, or the beans, so you can make it at home using tutorials. So effectively, we can turn anyone into a Gordon Ramsay. He's a top chef here in the United States, or an Oprah Winfrey. And so we're really excited about how we're automating smart speakers for small businesses along the lines of home shopping network, if you will.
It's massive. Yeah, I'd never really thought about that from that angle, but I do know, I had read recently smart speakers are just booming. The use of them, I think, like searches now via voice is, you'd know the number probably, but it's like 30 or 40% of searches now are using voice rather than typing.
Oh yeah, and surprisingly, I was about to go into a pitch with a venture capital firm just a couple of days ago, maybe a week or two ago, and I'm on TikTok, and all of a sudden Mark Cuban comes on and talks about ambient voice and the future of Alexa skills and things like that. I was like, the law of attraction, the universe, it's telling me something. And so I downloaded the video, I cut out the section that he was talking about, specifically ambient voice and the future of it, and I played it. I played in every pitch now that I go into, and it just nails what a billionaire like that thinks about broadcasting today, because he obviously built broadcast.com, and we're effectively building a broadcasting network with all of these small businesses who can advertise to each other. They can build off audiences of each other's. 2022 is going to be very, very exciting for HelloWoofy. That's for sure.
Great. Just back on before, you said something about it can automatically generate content and post, obviously. So how does that work? Is that AI?
Yeah, so we filed patents around the ability to figure out exactly which words, which emojis, which hashtags tend to be used with one another. So for your viewers who are tuning in, I'm going to be sharing my screen, but the idea is if you go into our platform and you click on create single post, what I'm about to type in, it's going to automatically create it. So if I type in, let's say, how are, and I'm just going to stop at the A in RU, it automatically has suggested R and E in the word R, and now it's suggesting in front of the word R and how, maybe you want to say you. So of course I want to say that. So I'm going to hit tab and it's going to complete the sentence. I'm going to put a question mark at the end, and then I'm going to say, okay, Troy, I love you. Put that question mark there, and then I love, and I'm just going to stop at LO in the word love, and it's automatically going to complete the sentence, and my coffee.
Yeah.
It's going to complete the sentence there. Now, for the viewers who are listening in on audio, what's happening is that based on hundreds of millions of conversations, it's then starting to give me emoji recommendations. Now, before you, Troy, started laughing at me, and I'm sure some of the listeners are now laughing at me, here's the deal. Emojis, believe it or not, according to a multi-billion-dollar company named Adobe and many other companies, emojis drive a lot of engagement and purchase intent. So here's where the eye candy comes in. We've literally mapped out the entire English dictionary, figure out exactly, based on the likelihood of this word being used with this emoji, being used with that hashtag or this hashtag, and so on and so forth, we can effectively tell you what is the best recommendation. You can ignore it like any AI solution. You should be able to have full control.
Yep.
But then we show you this is what's working, this is what's not working, and you can make your own decisions accordingly. So that's a little bit of eye candy there in terms of what we're doing. In addition to that, we're also looking at the sentiment. What does the world feel like? As you can see, the world has a huge bump here in joy, and then it's on the way down. And you can see what is this purple? So that's sadness. 16 minutes ago, I guess when we were debating Troy, the world felt a little sad. And so when you're making the content automatically as being generated, can we tell you, hey, maybe you want to make sure that the words to the emojis to the hashtags, they're the same sentiment. And that's the level of power that we want to give every underdog.
That is amazing. Can you just bring that slide up with some of those stats? Just read a few of those out on emojis. I never would have thought emojis, really help with that kind of track. Although that is one of my favorite kids' movie, the Emoji Movie.
It's called the cultural phenomena of emojis. It came out a couple of 2 years ago, but boy, is it powerful. I mean, it's a cultural phenomena. I talked about this on the TV show we were on as being the new hieroglyphics of our time. We have over 3,000 emojis, but so powerful. It's so universal. It just does really well in terms of the sentiment, the approach. When you use emojis, the approach, how do I describe it? The business seems more friendly. It seems more attentive. It seems more visual. I mean, we love our visuals, right? We love Pinterest. We love Instagram. We love TikTok. This is just another visual means.
That's great. Well, we might link through to that in the show notes. That's an Adobe blog article.
Yeah. So that's very powerful.
That's notably over half, or 58% of emoji users are more likely to open an email from a brand that has an emoji in the subject line. That has just changed my marketing life right there.
Yeah, and guess what? We've seen that directly when I send investor cold emails out, and I put a hand waving icon in the beginning, and then it's a request for meeting : met at whatever for context, and then I put a chart emoji or a check mark emoji, green check mark emoji, because I know those have an emoji in the beginning, have an emoji at the end. So just a couple of tips that we figured out to go from like 12% open rates in newsletters to well over 45% now.
Wow, that is phenomenal results. Well done.
Yeah.
And that's some really smart IP that you built there and technology. That's wow. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us how you started out.
So I've been an entrepreneur as early as I can remember. Been selling something or the other, building something or the other. I do carpentry on the weekends. A lot of the stuff you see around me did not come out of the box the way it looks. I modified it. I built, cut it up with saws and modified it. And so I've always been a creative. And having done a few projects, having done a few startups, I quickly realized that small business owners like you and me, the underdogs of the world, right? We need something that's just categorically different. It allows us to compete against those with unlimited marketing budgets. And one thing led to the other, and I had to solve this problem around social media. Social media, I built my agency years ago. Even back then, was the one of the most important ways for you and I to have a conversation between a business owner and a customer. And if you didn't, then I told you about it on social media.
Yep.
And everyone else knew. So and those are like, airlines would have been an example of that, going really well or not. So I realized that we need to automate that. We need to use artificial intelligence. We need to give the ability of an agency, a massive agency, into the palm of a small business owner, the barista, the tax accountant, the self proprietor, right? And so we built it. And then we realized, to my earlier point, that other means of marketing are going on the wayside and small businesses are getting left behind. And that including content marketing. That included, smart speaker marketing, which if you Google today is a very small industry, but boy, is it having a hockey stick movement right now. And small businesses are getting left behind again. And Netflix and Hulu, bless them, they're doing really well, but all business owners are going to do really well with us. So that's how we started, as our mission. And it's in our investor deck. We want to build the biggest company helping the smallest.
Yeah, I like that strapline. It's good. And so you've had another business before this, you had an agency?
So I started another tech company. We were building project management software for agencies, creative individuals. Think Prezi meets Monday.com meets Mural, or Murally as it was known, Mural.co. So we were way too early. It's a story of my life. We're working on some special projects right now, which are going to make sense probably in the next year or two, and maybe 3 years. For example, we have an augmented reality prototype where you can actually, this is going to sound weird, but you can walk within a marketing campaign, almost like a museum or an art gallery. Mm-hmm. You can see your posts on the left. You can see what's coming up in the future. If you like what you want, if you like the post in your library, tap on it and schedule it immediately, or use your finger and push it over and it gets deleted from your category. It's taking the desktop version of what we have today with 10,000 users, and it's making an augmented reality version out of it. So we're always thinking ahead. We're always pushing the limits, and thank God we have customers who believe in that.
That's great. And so how old were you when you started your first business, and what year was that?
Well, technically I've been driving my parents insane since I was 6 or 7 years old, selling everything in the house, or,
I'll just stop you on that, because 2 days ago, my 8-year-old came home from school and she had me in tears. I was so proud of her. She said, "Dad, I've just made $33. I said, "How did you do that?" Someone had given her a big bucket of lollipops a month or so ago. And I've checked with her mother. She didn't put her up to it. No, we don't know where it came from. Obviously watching me work. But she said, "Oh, I just thought they're like, I'm not going to eat all these lollipops. So I'll sell them at school for 50 cents. And that's really good value."
Yes.
She's run out of lollipops. So this afternoon, after I pick her up from school, we're going back to the shop. I said, "You got to restock. So bring your money and you got to reinvest it." So I've started talking about it and everything like that. Her eyes are lit up. She's walking in the house going, "I can't believe I've started a business. I'm 8 years old. Am I the youngest in the family?" I said, "Well, I think I was 10 when I started delivering horse shit and mowing lawns. But we'll have to ask your Pop. My dad might have been younger. I don't think he was. So she's going to be very proud when Pop says, no,
perfect. Perfect. My 10-year goal is to open Hogwarts or something similar thereof of a Harry Potter.
Yep.
And let kids go there, especially the ones that are super creative, super rebellious, and give them $5,000 a pop and say, go create something with your own hands, with the knowledge you were teaching you. I just came from a university called Draper University. It's founded by Tim Draper, who's a billionaire investor. He's one of our investors. And similar idea, he wants to teach you how to be a great entrepreneur, how to have the skills to go beyond your self-limiting beliefs. And so $5,000 a pop, if they create something which is substantial, follow up with $500,000 investment. And if it's a kid under 18, obviously work with the parents. If it's over 18, take them to the whole 9 yards. And I just remember myself being in high school, to answer your question, working on a startup there. My mom specifically saying, "No way, I've got a plan for you." Being Asian, I know that a lot of creativity, a lot of just curiosity exists in the youth, and I had it. And if you think about it, some of the issues that we're facing today as a world, especially the things that are going on in the Middle East, if we can just teach people to fend for themselves from a creativity standpoint, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, forget the GDP going through the roof. We can actually teach people how to take care of themselves.
Yes.
And I do believe entrepreneurship is at the core of it. If you think about the 49ers in Silicon Valley, why California became the heart of technology and innovation is because people risked everything to run and make a mad dash and set the foundations. And I think my 30-year goal is to do that on the moon. I think it's going to be the next, California in terms of innovation. It's just a matter of getting there.
Wow. We'll definitely have to have you back on in a decade or so.
Done. I'll call in from the moon.
From the moon, or on the way to the moon. So back to that question, if you can remember what age you were your first business and
7, 8. I mean, I think we were moving from an apartment, and my mom and dad were throwing out furniture because we didn't have time to get rid of it, and I just put a big sign across the side of the building and facing a very heavy traffic road, and everything for 50 cents or 25 cents, I think it was. I was very fascinated with quarters. And people started coming up the staircase while the movers were trying to go down the staircase with our stuff. And my mom was like, "What is going on? Just go away." There are little stories of me doing things like that. My mom passed away 2 years ago, and we were kind of falling apart towards the end, mainly because of my beliefs in what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. But I've basically become my mom in terms of culture and art and design and just in general. I think,
And do you have some key numbers to illustrate the growth of HelloWoofy?
Yeah, so we kicked off. We restarted the company, relaunched in November of 2019. We think had like 15, 20 customers at that point, and to date, we've had over 10,000, 11,000 users at this point. And I mean, if you just do the math, that's a whopping 20,000+% growth, which we're very proud of, because I know the days when we were, racking up credit cards. I put in about 120K in credit cards, 50 in cash, and with no idea how we're going to make this work. And thank God, 730,000 or so came in from the public markets through equity crowdfunding. A lot of our investors are actually customers, people who use their software day in and day out for their clients or their businesses. And so interesting story right there. Our typical acquisition cost is about $25 to $32. In some cases, some of our marketing campaigns are running at $42 CPA cost per acquisition. Our cart value has gone from $60 or so to close to 90, depending on the week or the day. And we're doing about 15 to 20K a month in MRR. So our goal is to do 50 to 100K early next year. And I think that the Alexa side of the business, which is going to be more premium, we should be doing 100K, 500K a month, next year.
That's fantastic.
So just a couple of numbers there, but I think the biggest number that's important is 15, because we got 9 incredible contractors, part-time people, and 6 full-time. They're the ones who are doing it. And the credit goes to my team.
Great. And starting out, it was just yourself, one FTE?
Yeah, it was me by myself with a bunch of wireframes, and we ended up hiring people on Upwork to build out the prototype. We used that to raise capital, a little bit of capital. Then we gutted it. We built another prototype, we gutted that, and then finally, we ended up starting the whole thing again, all over again, in the middle of 2018. And then we relaunched in 2019.
Fantastic. So you said you've got 9 full-timers, 6 part-timers, is that right? So would you have about 12 FTE?
Other way around. Other way around.
So 12 or 13 FTE now?
We have 6 full-time data scientists, engineers, QA, project manager, and then we have a couple of part-time or as needed designers, marketers, copywriters, data scientists as well, actually. So our WordPress developers. So it's one thing I learned is Fiverr and Upwork are going to be your best friends, like hands down. You just, once you figure out the right people. I mean, I know our people, at a very, we're very close. I mean, I know what's going on with their families. Some have had, issues, personal issues. And once you find the right people and you get to know them, you really want to, they become family to you. And we've never met. None of us have ever met till this day.
Wow. So say 10 or 11 FTE then, full-time equivalents. Yeah, that's fantastic growth. Well done. When was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
So if you watch that YouTube video where we have, Tim Draper saying, "You've won," in the first episode. I think I was so nervous standing there on stage. It's funny because I spent 5 weeks back there just because we came back from California, and I never thought I would be on TV. I never thought I'd be raising capital from a billionaire, and I never thought that we'd be pushed to the front as one of the top companies to come back into the Draper ecosystem this year in real life. And I guess the next time I'll feel like that is probably standing at NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange with our ticker symbol WOFY, because I've imagined that. I have it on my vision board. But if and when we IPO, would be, I'm having my dad stand right there next to me.
Yeah, fantastic. And what was that TV show Tim Draper was on with you?
It's called it's his own show. It's just him and his family. His father, who's like one of the godfathers of venture capital. His son is also on there sometimes, Adam. Jesse, his daughter, and his sister as well, and then a couple other guests on board. So it's called Meet the Drapers.
Great. I'll have to check it out.
We were on season 3. Yep.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tim Draper. He's been a very successful tech investor over the decades.
Yep, absolutely. And it's an honor. I mean, he responds to our emails very, very quickly. It's having him on board has been really helpful. For your viewers who are going to be watching the video version, this is really quickly what it looks like. And you can see Tim's right there. Nick was on our show, and this is me pitching in front of a panel of judges, and I'm so scared, so nervous right now. It doesn't come across at all, but I've got my t-shirt on. I always have my t-shirt or my hat on at this point, and it's all about branding at that point. And they loved it. Then we won that episode.
I think I heard in a podcast, Tim Draper was the person asking what's been your most successful investment, because he's been around for decades. And I think he said at the time, I think he was the one that said, by far, Fitbit. He bought into Fitbit early, and the return has been phenomenal. I think Google bought them last year.
Interesting. One of the other things that he talks about is Hotmail. When Microsoft picked them up, and this is actually Tim right now telling me that I love the fact that you wear your t-shirt, because I don't think anyone else on that episode or that season had their t-shirts on with their logo or their logo on anything that they were wearing. And he's talking about how the focus on emojis could be a good wedge into other things. And we actually just got notification from the patent office that we're actually pretty much at the end of the patent filing. So we're very excited about that.
Yeah, great. What does success look like to you?
Well, before my mom passed away, it was making as much money, IPO, the whole glamour of Silicon Valley. But at this point, it's just making sure I can take care of my dad. He wants a cabin. He was a professional mountaineer. He's now hiking and camping every weekend. He's some of the most ridiculous trails. Like, I could never do those. I'm the one limping back to the car. He's like laughing at me. But buying him a log cabin with a couple of 4x4s on the side of a mountain, letting him be happy, and IPO and making money is obviously up there. But I think family and my dog, which for your viewers, you can see the video version here. He's our mascot. It's a Maltese, 4.5 years old. Just the little things are so much more important to me now.
Yeah, I've got an 8.5-year-old. He's just about to turn 60, and we're going to have a party for him, but a chocolate Labrador named Douglas. So they're great companions.
Yep. You can see it right here. That's our little Maltese.
That's your logo, your icon. Yeah. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Get out there everywhere and yell everywhere at the top of your lungs. That means one of the things that, Appsumo was actually super, super helpful in the beginning. And they called me up and said, or emailed me actually specifically and said, hey, we heard some good things about you. And we hadn't even launched then, by the way. So we heard some good things about you. It seems like a cool product and cool service. We'd love to partner with you and help launch you. Are you guys going to be able to launch in August or summer of 2019? And we were like, let me think about it. Maybe by the end of the year, we'd like to do this on Thanksgiving, Black Friday. I think that timing is a little bit better. In the background, I'm like, engineers, like, we got to get this, polished up. We got to fix this right now. We got to get ready to launch. And so we launched Black Friday, just the end of November, beginning of December, which is actually when we kind of re-entered the marketplace in December 2019. And They were super, super helpful because all of a sudden that we were able to get in front of 800,000 businesses. We were able to learn about what is paid advertising, how to build an ad, we were making ads for like $2-3 on Fiverr at that point, and they're like, how are you doing it? I was like, how are you doing it? How are you spending $500,000, $200,000 a month and getting, I think they were getting like 2 to 10 return on ad spend. And so we just absorbed as much as possible. And so I would say Appsumo and their leadership and the team there, this was one of the biggest moments in our history, because then we ended the campaign two and a half months later or something, and we continued doing revenue, and we're doing way more revenue now than we ever did with them.
Great. It was Noah Kogan, wasn't it, that started Appsumo?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Oh, yeah.
I used to listen to his podcast years ago. He's one of the first 20 employees into Facebook, I think, early on, and then went out on his own, obviously. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Appsumo. They do some great stuff.
Yeah, and we partnered with them again. We gave away, I think, a couple hundred licenses for like 99 cents or something like that during the pandemic, because we wanted to continue supporting small businesses. So we do some collaborations here and there.
Yeah, great. And you've already touched on how you funded your business. So credit cards, you say $120,000 worth of credit cards.
Give or take. I've only just gone around to, paying all of them off, but it was a do or die kind of moment, and I was going to see it through the whole 9 yards.
And you threw in 50 grand cash, then you also raised some small investment.
Yeah, we got some angels on board, but majority of our capital came in through the public markets, through equity crowdfunding. I think we did 380 in our first campaign. We did about 200 in our second campaign. We just closed about 201,000. We're launching another campaign either this week or in the following week. And so it's a really good way to kind of eat your own dog food and let your own customers who are underdogs buy the service, use the service, and then have shares in the company, or promise to shares technically in the company that they're using. So,
yeah, it's great. Out of interest, which crowdfunding platform do you use?
So the first two campaigns we did on republic.co. Ken is the founder there. Chuck is the CEO of the RegCF portal. Great guys and a great team around them. And then the last round we did is on WeFunder, and we're going to be doing another WeFunder campaign. Okay, great.
Well. Yeah, we did a crowdfunded New Zealand whiskey collection end of 2018, raised 700,000 New Zealand dollars. That was a great experience. Yeah, really good marketing as well. And there's a couple other businesses I sit on boards of are considering crowdfunding as well. I think it's a really good way to go, and particularly after the pandemic. I thought it was going to tank the crowdfunding space, but everyone's dived on it. It's just, I'm blown away. Some are raising their full $2 million that they're going for in a couple of days, the ones I've watched in the last year.
Well, we should probably have an offline conversation around, collaboration and some mentorship. I'd be honored to get some tips from you. Because like I said, we're getting ready to do our next campaign. And the thing I keep saying, and I say this a lot on Clubhouse, which I love, is if you're raising capital for the sake of it through equity crowdfunding, or as we call it here in the United States, RegCF or Reg A, just for the sake of it doesn't make sense.
No.
If you're baking it into your business model, like for example, our LTV, the last time I ran the calculations, was about $500-$600, right? Let's say
lifetime value. Yeah, lifetime value for the audience. What's the gross profit you make from a customer over their life with you? Yep.
Exactly. On average, some people may stay longer, some people may stay shorter, but let's just say it's $500. If a person puts in $100, some of our customers are putting in $500, $1,000. One customer put in $10,000, $30,000, but let's just say they put in $100. What other mechanism on earth increases your LTV by 20% other than that?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I always say, founders, make sure it's a part of your business model, and somehow, and then it makes more sense.
Yep. Absolutely. If your LTV is around 500 and your customer acquisition cost, or CAC, is, let's say, around 40, that's phenomenal. That's a 12-to-1 ratio. I've just finished working with an online hair coloring subscription service, raising money at the moment. We built their financial model and their investment memorandum, and looking through all that, the industry standard they're saying is a 3-to-1 ratio. If you're less than 3, you're too close to break even. If you're more than 4 or 5, you're not spending enough money pumping it into your marketing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that is coming from the Facebook Insights and Google Analytics and things like that. Obviously, we're not profitable at this point. A lot of the capital is going towards engineering and Our server costs are really low now. I mean, it's like pennies on the dollar now. So we've been optimizing, let's just say the beep. I'll censor it for your editor. The beep out of everything.
No, I can see the sign on your door behind you, get shit done. And I've already sworn on this a few times, so no worries.
Yeah. So that's actually why we're looking to raise additional capital from our own customers in the public markets and institutional as well as angels. So if you have any experience along those lines, we could definitely talk. But that's why, because we just do really well with funnels. I think I mentioned we build one funnel for 500 and one for 300, and we've done about 300,000 off of it. It's using Fiverr. We have a great developer. We trust him. He's done such a great job building the entire site for us. And that's the approach that I wish every founder would take.
Yeah, no, I love it. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
If I started off today with basically unlimited funding or enough funding, which industry would I go into? I would probably stick to where I am right now. And it's not just marketing and digital marketing. It's having the ability to be seen. So that can touch smart speakers through broadcasting, that can touch media, that can touch PR. I mean, at the core of it is the technology and the artificial intelligence we file patents around. I think it's super, super important to focus in on that. The other thing I would probably say is I love LEDs. I have a lot of LEDs. You can see there's strips of LEDs, wired around my grass. And I actually carry LEDs on me. I think I have some on me right now. And it's
not weird at all.
every time I go to the bar, I have LED strips on me. I put LED strips on, maybe a girl I'm interested in, and it just lights up everyone. People start dancing, people start hugging, people start kissing, and there's something magical about LEDs, and you'll see LEDs all over my apartment. For people who are tuning or listening in, there's literally LEDs everywhere around me. So that would be probably another thing. And the third thing I would probably say is e-scooters. I've got one scooter that goes about 50 miles an hour as advertised. One goes 30 miles an hour as advertised. And I just love the thrill of the wind in my face. I can take a second person on both of them. So I do that for dates. It's great.
And this is like a scooter. Sorry, scooter is in like a Vespa, not the.
No. Like a L-shaped foldable, the thing that kids would use, but now they're motorized.
Yeah, you stand on. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I would probably get into that.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a YouTube video, or not a YouTube video, Instagram video of me doing it on my Instagram page. You can take a look at. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely.
But just because I started in 2016 and there was no one. I mean, I think I saw one electric scooter a week during 2016, maybe once every so often. And then by 2017, people started finding out about them, learning about them. But it's kind of how we've operated. We have a special projects division. It's one or two people, and they're constantly working on the next 2-3 years in terms of where we're going. So the Google Chrome extension came out of that, which we haven't talked about. The smart speaker came out of that. The AR augmented reality prototype came out of that. So it's always thinking about where the world's going.
Yeah, great. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Every 24 hours. I think the thing to keep in mind is the bigger vision. Every single time someone comes up and tries to sway me from being centered spiritually or mentally or emotionally, I have to come back to center knowing that there's a bigger vision. We know we have a couple of months of burn. We know we have to raise capital. We know we're making revenue every day. We know customers are coming in every day. We know someone's going to have an opinion about what we're doing, whether it's good or not. We know these things are going to happen. But someone once said, if people are not critiquing you or criticizing you, you're not doing something right. You're not doing anything probably at that point. And so you have to come back to center spiritually and emotionally and remind yourself the version of you 10 hours ago or a year ago or 20 years ago. I'm going to be 30 in 3 weeks, is going to be super, super proud of where you are today. And so if you can remember that and you can remind yourself of that, I know I just got a reminder in the mail to, pay something. And I was like, I need to donate to this organization because they need money. Just have that mindset. And The Secret talks about that. I followed The Secret, The Law of Attraction by Rhonda Byrne, which was obviously following the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich. So just come back to center. Yeah, great. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value? think it's on the product side. I mean, if you take a look at our product, I mean, just this little screenshot that we did, screen share, earlier in the show, um, a lot of thought went into how can we make it possible for customers to have moments of delight. I mean, one example, I'll give you is when and this always brings a smile to me, is when I show the customer. I'm sharing my screen again.
Yep.
So let's say if I'm sharing, I'm finding an image. So for viewers who are listening in, I click the purple dot. It helps you find images. So let's say we're looking for something motivational, motivational quote. It's going to find me images based on what I'm typing in. And let's say, I'm proud of you. So enter that image. I'm going to click on the T right here, which is going to essentially transcribe the image. It says, I'm proud of you. Okay, keep doing what you're doing. It's good. That's what it says on the image. I'm going to click on the transcribe button, and automatically it adds it in here, and even the URL. And whenever I show something as simple as that, and of course it's trying to read the image, the text, and it's giving me recommendations for emojis. The customer is like, holy beep. How did it do that? Like, why? Like, wow, like that is incredible. And it's those little things that we worked on to create those moments of delight that people keep coming back to us and are like, wow, that just really saved a lot of time. If you click here on the icon, you can actually ask the question, not ask a question, but command the platform and say, create a single post or create a campaign. And people are always like, you mean I can talk to my marketing platform, HelloWoofy, and it'll do things for me?
Wow.
For $5, $10 a month, depending on the tier they come in at. It's just moments of delight that we want to work on, and we just keep pushing that.
Yeah. What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Having a lot of first world problems, and knowing that at every step there's going to be a new threshold that we meet, a new tranche of things that we want to focus on. But I mean, the issues I have to focus on today, there was no way we had to focus on them 2 years ago, because we had other issues. It was like, how many credit cards can we take out? And now it's how much more can I put into the business to keep it running and making more money? I mean, I think today we did $700-$800 in sales. We did $778.94.
Yep.
And I know the day when we made our first $50 and $20, and I count, it's different kinds of blessings.
Yeah. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
The delight in seeing those customers. I do most of the sales calls. We just hire someone to do sales calls while I'm sleeping, and as soon as I wake up, I do the sales calls in the US time zone. But every time people tell me, wow, that's incredible, that's amazing. That's the process that I like the most.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
And no matter what, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. During this program that I just came from, Draper University, I have never done swimming in a pool that's deeper than 6 feet. I'm 5'7", so most of the time I'm staying within 6 feet. All of a sudden, we had to build a boat out of scrap metal, garbage, and paddle our way across a lake, which was probably 30-50 feet deep. And we did it with flying colors. We then had to paddle across a river in the Pacific, just next to the Pacific Ocean. And that was probably 200 feet or so. And we did it as a team. And so I've learned that no matter what your self-limiting beliefs are, you'll always be able to push them if you have the right mindset. Now, it's a separate thing that once we got to the other side of the river, I got stung in my foot by something we couldn't identify. But the point is, at the end of the day, you'll keep moving forward and you'll be fine. You get tested in different ways, whether you're spiritual or you're religious. You'll always be tested for different cases.
What is the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Have a rule of 90-10 or 80-20, which is spend your resources and capital in 80% of the time, 90% of the time, and things you know really well are going to bring you money, is what the majority of your customers want, and 10 to 20% of your time in things you have no idea about. So for example, in our case, it was a Google Chrome extension where you can use our patented technology on to autocomplete anywhere on the internet, kind of like Grammarly, but better, and it'll optimize for emoji. So that was like a moonshot. Then the next moonshot was we spent 10% over 15% of our resources at the time on the Alexa speaker, on the blog scheduler. And one of those is probably going to make more money for us than anything else in the history of the company. And then the augmented reality. So we constantly keep pushing the envelope, probably faster than any of our competitors combined. And that's the mindset that is super important. Don't spend 50-50 because you may not have a business at the end of the day. If you want to have a business at the end of the day, do things that are making you money, build the gasoline cars today, but then spend 10% of your time in the electric cars or the hydrogen powered cars or whatever the future is. And then just run with it.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah, scope creeping is one of those things based on what I just said. Making sure that you can, self-check, have your team members feel confident enough to check you or themselves when everyone is scope creeping or the designs are not proper or the UX isn't proper. I think that's the biggest learning that the team overall has learned, is that MVP means minimum viable product. It just means that get it out the door, learn from it, iterate, and then perfect it. And that's on the financial side. That's on the investment side. I mean, in my first campaign, you can see from the page, I've spent so much effort in putting a lot of text and a lot of images at it. And the second time around, I didn't care that much, and the third time around, I didn't care that much at all. And turns out we raised about the same amount of capital if you even it out. The first time we had the TV show, pushing it, but the second 2 times there was roughly the same amount. So just ship and iterate. That's the biggest lesson I've learned.
Yep. And what are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
The way we found our people, and again, the credit goes to them for building an incredible product that people are paying for. We found them through Fiverr, we found them through Upwork, we found them through recommendations. I mean, our marketer, I found him through the church I used to go to before the pandemic, because we had a New York City chapter at Hillsong, and actually Australia. You guys know what Hillsong is.
I think our Prime Minister's Hillsong. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So I used to go to the New York chapter, and I tweeted out saying, "Hey, I'm looking for a marketing guy to help us with paid ads. Know anyone?" Because I was really, looking for one last minute. And turns out one of the audio technical TV guys at the Hillsong Church in New York knew the guy in LA, Los Angeles, and we've been working with them for a year and a half, almost 2 years now.
Oh, great.
So you just find people. I mean, you gotta let the universe work its magic.
Yep. And what are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Stay in touch with them. We do daily stand-ups every single day, even though we're miles apart. Do your daily stand-ups, use Slack to stay in touch with everyone, keep everyone on the same page. We have a design channel, we have a bugs channel, we have a customer support channel, copywriting. I mean, we have a channel for every facet of the business so that people can be on the same page, but on separate, pages when they need to be. We're not lumped into one. So little things like that are super important.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
How we've handled balance. Probably not the greatest example of that. I would say, through some, just being burnt out at some point and ending up in the hospital at one point and just pushing to no end. I've learned that you need to put little mechanisms in place to automate it. So for example, in 2020, I was basically used to do one sales call every 20 minutes with one person. And then I realized after completely being burnt out, that you could use something called groups, calendar scheduling, and Calendly. So now we have up to, the number is up to 100. We usually have about 3 to 5 or 6 people on our sales calls, but I can do that many in a single call, and then I can do it again later on in the day. And we're continuing, as you can see, you haven't seen the real numbers here through our Stripe account. We're continuing to do more revenue than ever before. And so little things like that, when you learn to put in place mechanisms to put yourself out of the equation so you can do bigger things.
Yep.
Like if you just hired someone through one of our engineers actually as a recommendation, and now she's doing sales calls while I'm sleeping, and as soon as I wake up I do sales calls for the New York time zone. Little things like that will alleviate your, I guess, balance you out. But I am trying to see my, play with my dog a lot more, spend more time with him, with my dad as well, with my family, friends. I don't work late nights except when we have to do Australia podcasts,
Yep.
like this one. But little things like that will help you out.
So you were hospitalized from exhaustion?
No, it was more from burnout was one of them. It was just not taking care of my diet, not taking care of my health, and it was just little things like that. And the doctor was like, dude, you really, like, what do you do? I mean, clearly you don't have a corporate gig unless you do 10 of them.
Yeah. How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
I'm fortunate to have a lot of coaches as investors or customers, so I get quite a bit of education from there. Clubhouse is great for that. Audible is, I have the premium edition of Audible. I love listening to books, especially ones that talk about mindset. If there's a monetary value, at our stage, I probably spend a few hundred to a few $1,000s, but at some point, Tony Robbins is a huge proponent of this. He says just keep nurturing your brain, even if it costs you tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, as obviously my income goes up and the company value goes up, we'll continue doing that. And not just for me, it's for everyone on the team.
Yeah.
They deserve to have that capability.
Yeah. And you've mentioned advisors. So you've had mentors. You've mentioned coaches. So have you had mentors as well as coaches?
I haven't hired a coach ever, but I do have a lot of coaches who are mentors per se. There's no financial transaction other than they've invested in our company. But a lot of people I can turn to. Some of them are very well notable in the news or in general in the history of entrepreneurship and startups. But I can just turn to them, email them, and get a quick answer if I need it.
Great. And do you have a board of directors or advisors at the moment?
We technically do have a board of directors. It's me, and board advisors. You can see it on our website. We have quite a few well-known people on our board, and that's because it just you can't do it by yourself. You need wisdom. At one point, I was the youngest person in a conference room, running around as a 20-year-old, 18-year-old, 21-year-old, and now I'm like middle-aged at startup events, and I'm 29.
Yeah.
But from the very beginning, for the last 10 years, I've always tried to be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah, that's very wise. And Arjun, what about any learnings from that first business that you had?
Yeah. Every startup has taught me a different thing, essentially. And those things have been how not to build a product, how not to hire, how not to raise capital, how not to scope creep, little things like that. And I think I'm at a point where I know exactly when to ship an MVP, when to show a video of, we just talked about the augmented reality, when to show an example of something and get feedback and not hold it back to our chest because it might be too proprietary or we haven't filed the right patents or whatever. And also how to hire and how to make sure that the engineers who say they do really well, how do you test them out? We use HackerRank for that, which is a great website to test people on their engineering skills. So and then raise capital from people who really do have your best in best interest at heart. Or if they don't know what you're doing, they're investing in the founder, and they're not trying to muscle their way through thinking that they know everything about everything, but honestly, their background has nothing to do with what you're doing anyways. So little things like that, I've learned to, make better decisions, but I think I'm still learning. Like, how do I be more efficient with, Calendly? I just learned that, a couple of months ago. How do I make a sales funnel even cheaper and more, increase the cart value? We've been able to, it's all about trial and error.
Yeah. All right, Arjun, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Mindset. And this is one of the things that I always look for in a significant other is mindset. So if I've been on a few dates, recently, and I just know in my heart whenever I ask the question, so would you consider doing your own thing, or your own startup, or being a leader in your organization, or pushing ahead and going beyond where you are, or are you content with where you are? And whenever the answer is, I would never consider doing a startup, I would never consider being a VP, or never consider pushing the limits, or I would never consider, et cetera, et cetera. It's an automatic turnoff for me. Because beauty is one thing, physical attraction is one thing, but the mental curiosity and the drive to do something bigger than who you are is so important. And I look for that in people, in friends, and just people I'm hanging out with, or generally keeping around me, because you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. And if you have the right people, then that's super important. Favorite business book, which has helped you the most? I would say, the same author, Traffic Secrets and Expert Secrets, which is Russell Brunson. The mindset of how you position yourself, many of the things I talked about today comes from that book, as with me interpreting it for my business. And then if you're, I'll give you a bonus. If you're looking to close deals and raise capital and get really good at sales, take a look at Grant Cardone's Closer Survival Guide. I would say we raised at least $200,000-$300,000 initially because of his books. And I ended up meeting him at backstage while I was on a TV show we talked about, and I told him exactly what I loved about his books. He recorded me, and we took a photo together, and I was like, what is the universe telling me? As he's walking down to the set and I'm walking up from the set. It's the universe has a really funny way of playing with you. Absolutely. That was Grant Cardone, the Closer Guide, was it? Closer Survival Guide. Yeah. Survival Guide. Yeah. I've got someone I'm just thought of that needs to read that. They're raising capital at the moment. So I'm definitely will add it in the show notes, but I need to email them that straight away. So thank you. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development? Audible is a pretty big part of my lifestyle, because I drive a lot around the city a lot. Even if I have my dog with me, we go on bro dates, and so I'm listening to a book in my ear, and my dog is hanging off my back and enjoying the air. So audio is pretty big over there. And then when I come back, I use my smart speakers to continue listening to Audible. So I would say that's pretty big. As far as other ways of getting insights and growing, this is gonna sound weird, but I follow some very interesting TikTok accounts. That example I gave you with Mark Cuban was interesting, with the future of ambient voice and how that's going. I mean, I use that clip in every pitch I do, and it's because a lot of the latest trends are actually on TikTok, more so than Instagram. Oddly enough. Yeah. So that's actually pretty important. I mean, the dancing people are great, but some of them are dancing with recommendations on what's next. So I would say those two are pretty big. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business? I would say your calendar. I mean, my calendar is so interesting. I mean, I have colors on there. I have red for tasks that are urgent. I have green for tasks that are to be done but not urgent. I have blue for events, like this is a blue event, light blue event, and then dark blue events are things that I have to do, on my personal side. And it's just a whole calendar of colors, essentially, because I guess I'm just visual. So I would say calendar, because if you know exactly where you have to be and exactly what you have to do minute by minute, you are completely in ownership of your destiny. Yeah, you're more focused and present and productive. Yeah. Final and my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out? It's going to be okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Arjun. That was a wonderful, wonderful chat. Really appreciate you sharing everything with us, and that's phenomenal growth. In 2 years, we're up to 10,000 users now, and 10 or 11 FTE. Congratulations to yourself and the team, and look forward to watching your growth from here. Thank you, and I look forward to continue the collaboration offline as well. I think there's a lot I can learn, so I'm very humbled to be on the show, and thank you for the opportunity. No worries. All right, virtual hugs. And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.